starting from nothing. When you look at your life, sometimes a voice whispers from within, will it always be like this? Maybe you're counting every last penny each month. Maybe you've tried to start over, but every door has slammed in your face. Maybe you're lying in bed tonight staring at the ceiling, wondering how you'll feed your child tomorrow. Let me ask you something. If a man was forced to sleep in a train station bathroom with his 2-year-old son, with no money, no home, not a single connection in the financial world, and still became one of the most successful brokers on Wall Street, can your situation truly be called hopeless? This is not fiction. This is Chris Gardner's life, a promise made in chaos. Chris grew up in Milwaukee. He never knew his biological father. His stepfather was unpredictable and violent. His mother was a strong woman, but she was trapped between survival and suffering. In the middle of that chaos, young Chris made a quiet promise to himself. When I grow up, my children will know who their father is, and I will always be there. That promise would become the foundation of everything decades later. The red car and 2 questions. After leaving the Navy, Chris moved to San Francisco. He was selling medical equipment, hauling heavy bone density scanners, knocking on hospital doors, sometimes going weeks without a single sale. His relationship with his son's mother was falling apart. There was no money. There was no future. But the heaviest burden wasn't that. It was the feeling that no matter how fast he ran, he couldn't move an inch. One of those days, while walking through the financial district, his eyes landed on a red sports car. The man stepping out of it carried himself like someone who had long since figured out how life was supposed to be lived. Chris walked up to him. He didn't know the man, but he asked anyway, "What do you do? And how did you do it?" The man smiled. "I'm a stockbroker." Chris had no experience in this field, no connections, but something shifted inside him in that moment. A small, inextinguishable flame. If that man can do it, why can't I? An unpaid internship. A homeless life Chris applied to a training program at a major financial firm. He was persistent. He kept showing up and he was accepted. But there was one condition. He would receive no salary for 6 months. He accepted. He had no other choice. Within weeks, everything collapsed at once. His girlfriend left and took nearly everything they had. His landlord changed the locks. With no money for childcare, he brought his son everywhere, to the office, to the library, to the streets. This man trying to knock on Wall Street's doors was now homeless, with a 2-year-old by his side, the foot against the door. There is one moment from that period that stays somewhere inside everyone who hears it. One evening, with nowhere to sleep, Chris took his son into a subway station bathroom. He locked the door from the inside. He spread a thin blanket on the cold tile floor. He pulled his boy close. Someone began knocking on the door. Chris pressed his foot against it. He was pushing with everything he had to keep it from opening. Silent tears ran down his face. He didn't make a single sound so as not to wake his son. In that moment, a decision was born, not from hope, but from rage. Never again. I will do whatever it takes. No matter how hard it gets, I will build a life my son can be proud of. Working without anyone watching, every morning he woke before dawn, from wherever he had spent that night. He dressed his son, dropped him at a low-cost daycare, and walked to the office in his one suit. He studied on the bus. He practiced phone calls during lunch breaks. He memorized stock market terminology while feeding his son dinner at a church shelter. His colleagues at the office had no idea he was homeless. What they saw was a man who worked harder than anyone else in the room. Chris intended to keep it that way. What made the difference? And what didn't? What set Chris apart from others wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It was accepting that no one was coming to save him. Not the government, not his family, not some lucky break that would arrive at just the right moment. When he accepted that, he was freed. Because once you stop waiting to be rescued, you start building your own ladder. In the training program, there was only one permanent position for 20 candidates. Chris knew this, so he was the first to arrive and the last to leave. He worked weekends while the others rested. He treated every single day as if it were his final interview, because it was. Years later, when someone asked how he made it through that period, he always came back to that bathroom door. In a moment when you have nothing, no money, no home, no guarantee of tomorrow, You press your foot against a door. And there, on that cold floor, you learn something about yourself. It's not the circumstances that define you, but how you face them. That door was the heaviest thing I'd ever had to hold. But it taught me I could hold anything else. The exam passed, the apartment signed. 6 months later, Chris passed his licensing exam on the first attempt. Out of 20 candidates, the one available position was given to him. The hiring manager said he had never seen anyone work with that kind of intensity in his life. The day he moved into a small apartment, 1 bedroom, a kitchen, a door that locked from the inside, he sat on the floor and cried. Not because the apartment was beautiful, because that night his son would sleep in a real bed. There was no stopping. Chris didn't stay there. As he climbed through the financial world, he kept learning, kept taking risks, kept building connections. In 1987, with just $10,000, he founded his own brokerage firm, Gardner Rich, in a small office in Chicago. There were doubts again. No Ivy League degree, no established family connections, no inherited capital. But Chris was a man who had slept on a bathroom floor. He couldn't exactly say starting a business was harder than that night. Gardner Rich grew. It reached the point of managing millions of dollars in investments. Chris Gardner attained multi-layered prosperity. His book was published, his film was made, his story reached millions of people around the world. But when people asked what his greatest achievement was, he never spoke of money or fame. My son grew up knowing who his father was. I was always there. I kept the promise I made to myself as a child, what life taught. Chris Gardner's story isn't about money or Wall Street. It's about the power of refusing to accept your current situation as your final destination. Most people wait for the right background, the right education, the right timing before pursuing success. They wait for the cards to be dealt in their favour. Chris had none of those things. What he had, a wrinkled suit, a sleeping child, and a door he pressed his foot against. The difference wasn't in what he possessed. It was in what he refused to accept. 3 things I want to leave with you. First, stop waiting for perfect conditions. They are never coming. Chris began his journey while homeless. You can begin yours from wherever you are right now. Imperfect action is always more powerful than a perfect plan. Second, protect your vision from people who cannot see it. Not everyone will understand your dream. That's fine. Their doubt is not your truth. The only thought that matters is the one you repeat to yourself when no one is watching. Third, make a promise and keep it. Chris promised that his children would know their father. That promise made him hold the door, pass the exam, and build the firm. Find your own promise, something larger than your comfort, and let it pull you forward. Chris Gardner slept on a bathroom floor. Without money, without a home, without having taken a single step in the financial world. Right now, you are reading these words. That means you have a device, an internet connection, and free access to the knowledge of the world. You have more resources than Chris had on his darkest night. There is only one question. What will you do with them? Chris once said, "The cavalry isn't coming." You have to do this yourself, but he also proved you can. You absolutely can.